Hey, Al.
Yes.
Hi, I'm noticing that we have someone watching, and he's actually our fifth panelist. Would you be able to add Curious as a panelist as well? Hey,
Okay.
Al.
Yes.
Hi, I'm noticing that we have someone watching, and he's actually our fifth panelist. Would you be able to add Curious as a panelist as well? Hey, Al.
Yes.
Hi, I'm noticing that we have Alrighty, I think it's 5, so we can go ahead and get started. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today's event is going to be based on the questions that we get rolling in. We have myself, as I'm the co-coordinator of the Ambassador Program, as well as an International Studies senior here, focused on comparative politics and a minor in French. I'm going to be kind of moderator and help kind of moderate the questions that are going on in here. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce our panel. So I'll go off based off my order on my screen. So if you want to start, Alyssa, and introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Alyssa. I'm a second-year student from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm studying the Environmental and Sustainability Studies major in the College of Arts and Sciences.
Awesome. Next up is Serenity. Hi, Serenity, I can't hear you. You want to try that again? Nope. Oh, there you go. Now you're good.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. I'm Serenity. I'm from Bardstown, Kentucky, and I'm a linguistics and Arabic and Islamic studies double major.
Awesome. Next up is Bailey.
Hi, my name is Bailey. I'm from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'm a senior English major with a minor in gender and women's studies.
Awesome. And last but not least, Curious.
Hello, everybody. My name is Curious Kibler. I'm a junior majoring in psychology and sociology with a minor in criminology, and I am from Louisville, Kentucky.
Awesome. So now we'll let questions roll in. They could be based on anything. We have a pretty good variety of ambassadors here. Why don't we start while we let questions roll in, though? Probably one of the biggest ones that we like to address, first of all, is why UK? We'll go in that same order, if that works for everybody, because I want to know all of you guys. So let's start with Alyssa again. Why did you end up at UK?
Yeah, so as an out-of-state student, I always knew I wanted to go out of state, but I didn't know where, and I didn't know really what out-of-state college would be the best fit for me. I'm also a first-gen student, which means that neither my mom or my dad finished a 4-year degree program, so I didn't really have that background guidance that some other students have, or a push of a certain college, so it was really up to me, but every time I kept coming back to UK, I just instantly felt like all the opportunities that they had here were going to set me up for success. I'm getting the opportunity to study abroad this summer, which is so affordable here at UK and so achievable for almost any student. And that's not how I really saw that at a lot of other colleges. So I'm really fortunate that I'm here and I have these opportunities to kind of expand on really what I want to do in the future.
Awesome. I'm glad you noticed that or mentioned that. I'm also an out-of-state student, so I think about that a lot, and we have a ton of out-of-state students, so it's not like it's out of the norm, but it's really interesting getting to hear, how you ended up in Lexington, for example. But that's great. Awesome. And then next up, Serenity.
Hi, so I kind of felt like UK was a home away from home. I had toured a couple other colleges, and thought about going like out of state and really far away, but UK was the right fit because it's about an hour away from home. So it's close enough to where I could go back, I could visit if I needed to. I always had that like soft spot to land. But here I'm like myself, I'm independent, and the UK community kind of just like embraces everybody and brings you in. So it really does feel like people here care about me just as much as people back home. So UK really just like was the perfect spot for me.
I love that. I agree. I definitely I think that's a really good thing that I felt as soon as I got here. And I think it's super important when you come to pick a college is like making it feel like home because you're going to be there for the next couple of years. So I think that's super important. Bailey?
Yeah, kind of agreeing what Serenity says. I'm from Bowling Green, so I'm 2.5 hours away. And kind of like every high school grad, you want to get away from home, but you're not really comfortable going across country. And I was also really deciding, and I was very hesitant of picking a major because I didn't really know what I wanted to go into after college. And I really love how UK embraces that. I ended up changing my major 3 times before I even came on campus. I also toured the campus and it was beautiful. And I absolutely felt like this was the right spot for me. And they offer a bunch of gen ed classes called the UK Core. And that really helped me solidify my decision on picking my major.
Yes, that's awesome. And then Curious?
Yes, and in the same breath of my counterpart, Bailey, I also was just very attracted to UK just for its opportunity. Being a Research One institution, I knew that it would allow a lot of opportunities for research, especially in my major being psychology and sociology. I did want that kind of out of state experience. Fortunately, I didn't get that, but that's okay. It was far enough for me. Now my parents are in Texas, so I am kind of getting that but UK has just always been a land of opportunity. And it's always reinventing. There's always something being built on campus or being renovated. And that kind of sense of innovation was really attractive because I am all about diversity, change, inclusivity. So UK was a breathing image of that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I see some questions starting to roll in. The first one is, what are the psychology and French classes like? So I guess we'll start with psych. I'm definitely going to bounce that question straight to you, Curious. I believe Bailey is minoring in psychology, so she might be able to answer a little bit about that. But what can you tell us about those psych classes?
So psychology is one of those majors to where it's so diverse, it's so general. You can get anything you want. I like to use the buffet analogy. So no matter what kind of, since you want to have social psychology, we have a class for that. If you want to look more into mental disorders, there's an abnormal psychology course. If you're just looking at more of the mathematical, deep kind of research opportunities, that's more of a statistical. So I would say all in all, psychology classes are very fitted to you. They offer a gross amount of options for you to take, and you can just tailor it to however you want. So pick up whatever you want and leave whatever you don't aside.
Awesome. And Bailey, what could you add about that as like how it differs maybe as a minor?
Yeah, of course. So like I was saying, you have an opportunity to choose from a plethora of majors. You also have that choice with a minor. So I dilly-dallied with that and gender and women's studies, and I got to see the social side of it. I was kind of hesitant to dive into a science-based class because I am a humanities major, but it was catered towards me amazing. I actually took it over the summer and remotely. So it was asynchronous, but I took it from the comforts of my own home. And the professors were amazing. I couldn't tell a difference. They were always there to answer questions. We had live discussions. So I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And then Serenity, you know, I'm sending that language question to you. I also took French classes here, but I'll let you take it away.
So I really love the French department here, all the language departments really, but like they're super close knit, they care about your success, and there's also lots of options. So if you're interested in like the linguistics of French, you can go into that. If you're interested in French film and culture, you can integrate your language use with that information and cultural experience, and these people will like introduce you to opportunities for study abroad. Like my current Professor George Sauer is leading a French class on comics in Paris, France this summer. And there's so many opportunities for you to get those requirements for your languages, but also explore the world around you, and your classes will really dive into that.
I love that. No, that's a very good valid point, especially when it comes to language classes, that like immersive experience of like education abroad and how it's tied into that for sure. So next question is a little bit more general. It's what's your favorite class? I'm going to shoot that to you, Alyssa, since you didn't get a chance to talk about like maybe some classes that you got to take.
Yeah, okay. This is a hard question because I really thoroughly enjoy all of my courses. One of my favorite classes that I've taken was a class about climate change, but it wasn't just the scientific side. That's not really my due. I don't really go for that, but it was more of like how climate change is impacting populations, how it's impacting like societal norms. So I really liked that view on climate change because that's not something that I've really gotten to see. And we really integrated a lot of film into the course, which is cool because I just love watching a good movie. So I really like that they use different medias to communicate the course content. It really sticks with you that way. So I would say that has to be my favorite course if I had to choose one.
Definitely. I agree too. When I heard that question, it's just like there's so many different ways you could take it, whether it's like academically or the fun classes you end up taking on the side. So we did get a question about homesickness. So when it comes to being out of state student, I'm going to send that right back to you, Alyssa, as well. How do you feel like you cure that?
Yeah, so I feel like UK has kind of become my home. There's so many different student organizations to get involved with, and I promise you that you'll find a group of people that become your second family. And it's so nice, and I'm so fortunate that I have so many organizations and Greek life behind me. So if I'm ever feeling like a little down or just that I need some people to lift me up, I have that entire support system. And truly, I cannot make it across one side of campus to another without seeing someone that I know. So it's really special because even though we are a large campus, we still have that small knit groups. So I don't really get homesick. Obviously, I do like traveling home, but I feel like UK has kind of transformed into my home over these last 4 semesters that I've been here.
I love that. And Serenity, Bailey, and Curious, if you guys want to chime in on that too. I know you guys still probably, as not out of state students, but might deal with homesickness as well.
Yeah, so, oh, sorry, Bailey, did you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So again, I don't think it's much of homesickness, as Alyssa said. Like I mentioned earlier, my parents moved to San Antonio, Texas, literally the day that I moved in for sophomore year. So it was a lot of transition. Kind of that's when I think it triggered that like they're no longer there. But also in tandem with what Alyssa said, I can't walk across campus without seeing at least one or two, maybe a handful of people that I do know. So it is kind of that opportunity for me to say I have a sense of community here. And not to get super not political, but like philosophical, but college is just one of those things to where that's one of the first stages of your independence and you forming those relationships that are no longer familial. So I think that UK does a great job fostering that kind of opportunity for creating that community for yourself.
I love that so much. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with all of that. And especially as an out-of-state student. Next question we got is related to studying abroad. And Kennedy asks, Alyssa, where are you studying abroad and how did you work it into your schedule?
Yeah, so I am studying abroad. So I actually was going to study abroad last summer before pre-COVID, but now I'm studying abroad this summer. I'm going to Amsterdam and I'm looking at how the environment impacts diseases and like age trends in Amsterdam. So I'm really excited for that. It's a 2-week program over the summer and it's led by faculty. So that's really cool because the teacher that's leading it is a professor that I had in my microbiome class. So I already have like a working relationship with her. So I'm really excited that I get to go across the sea with her. and it's pretty flexible to work into your schedule. Any major, I want to say almost every major in the College of Arts and Sciences has some study abroad program somewhere, and they're all super affordable. And maybe if you don't want to study abroad an entire semester, because that was never something that I wanted to do, but I still wanted that experience, you can go over the summer, and it's only 2 weeks. So it's kind of like a vacation where you get some college credit. So I'm really excited to get to do it.
I love that so much. And Serenity, did you get a chance to study abroad? Or are you planning to?
So I am planning to study abroad like during my senior year, which is a little bit in the future. Hopefully when things become a little more normal. But I found that like the faculty at UK that helps you plan these study abroads, that like supports you through it, they're so helpful. They can be tailored to you. There are certain ones that are specific to like your major even, and if you like reach out to them, they are more than willing to guide you in planning these experiences, and they want you to get the most out of it.
Definitely. I also work for the Education Abroad department. So anybody watching this, just echoing what's already been said, there's so many study abroad opportunities. I actually went abroad for a full year, pretty much completely on scholarships. So it just goes to show that, that financial worry that usually hits students like, oh, this is an experience I can't do, it's really easy to surpass. And especially with like the faculty and the help that you get, like whether it was like my French professors encouraging me to go abroad or my advisor encouraging me to go abroad. And then, you get into the nitty gritty of the applications, and then you have advisors in the Education Abroad department that help so much with that. So, and you're not limited to, those kind of like my major, international studies. You could be any major. So I definitely encourage students to look into that. I guess that kind of brings me to wonder, maybe we kind of maybe mentioned it a little bit, but how did you guys all start kind of decide on your major? Because I think that's super interesting. And I think I kind of wanted to start with Bailey, maybe, because you mentioned how you kind of jump majors. And I think that's a good conversation to have.
Yes, of course. So again, I went from business to psychology to an English major. So that's in about 3 different colleges. One of the things I really appreciated about UK was that they offered core classes. So I got to experiment with different writing classes, public speaking. I've got to sit into a few lectures and seminars, and that really helped me facilitate what I really wanted to do. And I found out that I had a passion for writing and editing. And also my advisor was really helpful. She suggested a lot of classes when I told her that I really fell in love with our communication classes. And do not be afraid to come in with a major, and don't be afraid to switch it, because there's so many different possibilities and so many different options within the campus. So do not be afraid and try everything.
I think that's really good to mention. Yeah, I mentioned that a lot too. A lot of students come in and are worried about like switching majors halfway through. That's always going to be the better choice than staying in something that is not right for you. And it's okay. Also, I think that's a great thing about college. Curious, you had mentioned how like this is the first time, like a lot of students get that independence, and it's a really good way to explore different classes and get into what you're into. I mean, for me, I as well, like when I came in, I was coming in with social work, and then about 2 weeks before I started college, I had to look through the majors again. I was like, let me just look through these. And I saw international studies. I'm about to graduate, and I could not imagine myself studying anything else. So curious, how did you end up with psychology?
So honestly, from the jump, I'm very different from Bailey. I knew that I wanted to do psychology. I had that idea in my mind ever since maybe my junior year in high school. That stemming from just my passion for helping others, especially with raising psychological awareness and advocacy, especially within the younger population, so children and adolescents. That's where I want to focus whenever I do get my degrees and my licensure. But yes, I came into UK knowing that I wanted to be a psychology major. The sociology was an add-on because I would have finished early, but I didn't want to finish early. So I just added the sociology, which is kind of in the same breath, very similar to psychology, a lot of the overarching themes.
What about you, Serenity? How did you end up on your studies?
So actually, I came from a program that was super tailored to like math and science courses. And I was at the Gatton Academy for 2 years, so I thought I was gonna do like physics or something like super hard STEM. And then I started branching out and taking classes that had like different interests of mine and truly found my passion in language. And I still wanted to incorporate that like scientific aspect, but also the humanities aspect. And I just kind of landed on linguistics, and I have a real passion for Arabic and French. And so UK has been a great place for me to continue those studies.
I love that so much. Yeah, and I especially feel you on the language. Alyssa, what about you?
Yeah, so I always deep down knew I wanted to go into the environment, but I didn't really know like where I wanted to take it. I didn't have a career in mind. Sometimes I still don't have a career in mind, but the great thing about any of these majors is they allow for you to really explore within your major. I know Curious was talking about it with psychology. You can do one side of it and then the complete flip side. So I can explore some of those natural science courses and then flip it around and explore some of those humanity related courses. So I really like that my major has that flexibility, and I really couldn't picture myself studying anything else. So even if you are like, I think I want to major in this, but you have no idea what you want to do with it, that is okay. Get in there, look at those courses, and I promise you'll find something that works out to do with it.
I love it. And I'm glad that you mentioned how career options, I mean, like that's what college is for. I mean, even after you graduate, you know, depending on what you want to do and which route you want to take, there's still time to figure things out and get involved with things and kind of still explore your interests. We got a question based on how big our class is. I'm going to take this one because that's a very general question. It's kind of weird. It definitely depends on what kind of classes you're taking. So for example, a lot of my higher level political science courses ended up being a lot smaller. You know, you're with a professor, it's more lecture style. But then in the beginning, I mean, a lot of those core classes that I would take were huge lecture halls with like 100 students, for example. But they're really interactive too. I will say, like, I had a couple in JSB, the Jacob Science Building. And what I really loved about there was, I mean, there like the technology just helps with such a big classroom. Like working in pairs, you can kind of swivel and turn around. And it was really, I just feel like it was like a really good kind of way to get involved with such a larger classroom. But it's definitely going to depend on what kind of classes you're taking, what you're majoring in and things like that. I know labs tend to be smaller and things like that as well. So I hope that answers your question, Kennedy. We got a question from Paul. Do any of you guys work at the school? And if so, how do you like working within the school? So I actually, like I said, mentioned I worked for the Education Abroad department, and right now we're remote, but I love it. I think it's really good to get involved with jobs on campus because you get to know different faculty. For example, like the advisors that I have under that department have helped me so much, and it's crazy that it's not even like teachers and stuff. It's more like my kind of bosses at work. So I really love that. Serenity, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually work at the LGBTQ resource office on campus through a federal work study as an education intern. And it's something that will pull you into the community and help you meet new people while also like mine's FWS. So it like aids me in my financial stability while I'm educating myself here at UK. And my supervisors are like some of the best people I've ever met. I love that I get to make these connections within the community. So I encourage people to work on campus. It will show you parts of campus that you maybe hadn't seen, give you connections that you might not have made. It's really good for networking and also like learning about yourself and getting new skills.
I love that. And Bailey, Alyssa, and Curious, have you guys worked on campus before? Yeah, go ahead, Curious.
So yes, I have also worked on campus as a resident advisor. So very, very remote on campus. I do like the fashion of the university providing those job opportunities to work on campus rather than having to travel off campus and then come back to, and plus they work with your schedule. But as an RA, just staying within the residence halls, creating that community like I was speaking about with UK, fostering that, and just making sure that you're welcoming in incoming freshmen, transfer students. We have a plethora of different types of people coming in from different backgrounds, some from low economic statuses, high economic statuses, different majors, different passions. And I think that job opportunity has really opened me up to seeing the diversification of having a community and having different interest, likes, career paths, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Another question from Paul is, do any of us have two majors or thought about having two? So Alyssa, I think, are you still pursuing a dual degree, or did you switch over?
Yes, so I'm working on a dual degree right now. So that means that I'm working on two majors at the same time, and I'm going to graduate with 2 degrees. My other major is outside of this college, but dual degrees are so flexible because a lot of the courses will overlap, and then you'll be able to really work on that 2 courses at the same time. It's not a whole lot extra coursework, and then you can graduate with 2 extra degrees. So I think if you have the opportunity and if you have I don't know, if you're ever interested, definitely go for it. We even have little tools on our course registration websites where you can test out different degrees if you're ever considering switching majors or degrees, and you can see how far along you would already be with what you've already taken. So they really want you to go after something you want to do. That's why they have all these tools set up. So they don't want you to stay in a major that you don't want. So I think that's really awesome about UK.
Definitely. And then Serenity, are you pursuing a double major?
So I started out pursuing a double major and then ended up finding another passion, making that a minor, and then adding a minor. But like Alyssa said, we have lots of resources that will help you figure out what you want to do. And there is so much overlap within the college that lots of courses that you take for one thing will count for another. It's very doable.
And I really like that you mentioned also just, I also started off with a double major and ended up dropping it, adding a minor. So it just goes to show throughout, your experience, you start to figure things out. And if you want to change things, you're totally able to. There's no kind of thing weighing you down. I think switching my double major to a minor just worked so much better for me. And at the end of the day, it's some certain things that you want to tie in, you really have to think about how you want to incorporate it. And those are conversations that your advisor helps you with. And I know that's what helped me a lot become comfortable with that, because I felt like when I added my double major, I was like, I can't take this off. And then, you realize, yes, you can, and you could change your plan, and that's completely okay. So I hope that answers a little bit about kind of dual degrees and double majors and stuff like that. But go for it, have those conversations, because, you should pursue what you're interested in. And I just got a question about what double majors I started with. I tied my international studies with FLY, which is foreign language and international economics. So both internationally related. However, international studies, I was more focused on politics and more social sciences. And then the foreign language and international studies, I love the French part, but I hate economics. I'm not very good at it. And that's kind of what made me realize that it's not something that I want to pursue as a career. So it is commonly kind of combined though as a double major. I will mention that IS students more than not are double majoring in FLY, just because it gives a lot of flexibility if you want to go into the business realm. But like I mentioned, just not for me, not what I was going for. But those were the majors I started with. And I changed the French component to a minor, and I still got to take all those French classes I wanted to take. And I even took those abroad as well. So. All right. I did want to touch on research opportunities because there's just a ton at UK. And if I'm correct, all of our ambassadors have done some kind of research if it wasn't for a class or something they're involved with. Bailey, do you want to talk about some research you're doing right now?
Yes, of course. And I would like to also mention that you can make amazing bonds with your professors as early as freshman, sophomore year. That's actually how I found my faculty mentor for my independent studies. I took an English class with her, and it ended up just spiraling into something amazing. So right now I'm working on my honors thesis, and I would like to kind of dive into discovering why a lot of American literature tends to omit the Native perspective. And I'm going to be graduating this May, sorry. And this whole process has been absolutely phenomenal because my mentor has been there constantly checking in on me, providing updates. And it's an absolute amazing experience that you can honestly start as early or as late as you'd like.
Hey, we just got another question though, based on kind of careers. So do you want to tie in that with your research maybe, Bailey, and what you plan to do since you mentioned you're graduating?
Yes, of course. So I'm also interning. I interned at a nonprofit, which I'm now employed at. And I knew I wanted to kind of mix a nonprofit, but also mix that with my gender and women's studies background and my English background. So I kind of decided that I'm going to go into mental health counseling. That helps me decide that I want to help people. And then I can also use that English background to kind of get some of the terminology down. So that's my end goal. I'd like to become a clinical mental health counselor. So hopefully the accreditation process after I graduate UK. So
I love that. And then, like I mentioned, we can kind of just do it as like a double whammy and kind of tie in the research into maybe what you want to do as a career. Alyssa, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I actually landed upon the research. Well, I'm starting mine over the summer, but the research I'm going to be doing based on one of my classes, I was feeling, I want to encourage everyone to do this. So if you're ever in a course and you're like, wow, what that guest speaker just talked about something so cool. That was me in one of my environmental science classes. And I reached out, and now over the summer, I'm going to be working for the Kentucky Health Department doing environmental research for them. So I'm really excited. And then long term, I really want to go into environmental epidemiology, which is a mouthful. But what that means is I just want to study how the environment impacts diseases across communities, and then maybe how different environmental factors play into different disease spreads. So I'm really excited. I just really like that environmental side of health, and that's really where I want to take it in the future.
I love that. Curious?
Yeah, so I actually did my research in the fall of my sophomore year. That's pre-COVID. But we did our research in hormone changes throughout menstruation and looking at impulsivity thereof. Um, Findings were inconclusive, but we did not continue with that because of COVID. Outside of that, I'm currently doing research in my processes of psychological development class, which is my advanced lecture lab for my major, and we're looking at children's language development through social interaction, both familial and peer instructor.
And Serenity, do you want to talk about a little bit about career options? And then
I'm sorry, and I would be looking to do, sorry, I'm so sorry, I think I cut out. And I'm looking to do clinical psychology. So a little bit more about mental disorders, still focusing on children and adolescents, but more in a clinical field.
Hi. So I have been doing research in linguistics, specifically the lexical flexibility of idiomatic expressions, which basically just means like how far can I change an idiom, which we store in the brain as a whole phrase, basically with one meaning as a word. You can't break it down and get the same meaning. And so can I thus say like, he's the grasshopper's knees instead of he's the bee's knees, that kind of thing. And that kind of plays into I want to be an English as a second language teacher in the future. And idioms are some of the hardest things to learn across languages. Like it's really hard because people can't break them down to figure out their meaning, and it's kind of a cultural thing. So I think that this insight into how we store it is going to better help me teach people in the future.
I love that. Yeah, that's so cool. I'm about to graduate, and I actually applied for a job to go teach English in France. That would be this October. I find out at the end of this month, so fingers crossed. But that's kind of what I'm going for with my international studies major. It's not my end goal. I actually do want to go back to get my master's. Interestingly enough, I want to tie it with environmental science, kind of similar to Alyssa. The way I see it is that, I've taken my undergrad to focus on making myself a better global citizen and learning, specifically comparative politics. However, I feel like that master's in environmental science is going to help me get to my end goal, which is working for a more environmentally based organization, but maybe as a representative for them, considering I've studied language and international studies and have had a lot of international experience. That's kind of what I'm going for career-wise. But I love it. I love to hear it from all of us. It just goes to show the diversity from all of us, because we're all kind of like, there's some overlap, but there's completely different like paths as well. We got another question from Paul, speaking about pros and cons about being in a dorm. What's the best and worst experience in the dorm? So I'm gonna send this this question to Curious, because you're an RA, so I want to know what you can talk about, what you can mention about that.
I would say the centrality aspect. Being on campus is very resourceful. I don't shoot anybody in the foot who chooses to live off campus. Um, Not everybody could live on campus, but I think just for me personally, being um, a lazy person, I will admit, I I could just walk right down the street. It took me maybe 2 minutes to walk to the library. So like I live not even 2 minutes away. Um, just that kind of local aspect of it is very advantageous. A downside of living on campus, I think, would just be it might be hard to escape the feeling of being in school. Being that you do a lot of classes and you're walking around campus and you see people with backpacks, you can start to unconsciously, taking this from a psychology kind of point of view, unconsciously associate where you live with where you work. And that can be very stressful on a person. So I think that there are both benefits and disadvantages of living on campus, that being one of them.
Yeah, I hope that answered. Our dorms here are just really nice as well. I think that's something that I felt when I came here. It felt like such a good way to kind of like ease into independence because you're kind of in your own space. You have your own opportunity to do your own things. However, if you need something, it's there. It's definitely really near, close by. The RAs are awesome. Like you have utensils to use and borrow if you need them. And especially that centrality aspect for sure. We got a question about financial aid and how to like navigate it, negotiate it. I'm assuming we all at some point took out some kind of financial aid, so I'm sure any one of us can add into this. Serenity, do you want to talk about it a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, so there are so many opportunities for financial aid in here at UK. Like, there's college-specific financial aid. I know there's some like major-specific financial aid. There's federal financial aid, which is like what I'm on. And also there's like so many opportunities to apply just overarchingly. So like we have the presidential scholarship, Singletary, etc. And they're a lot more attainable than you think. Like if you put yourself out there and apply, you're bound to get something because the opportunities are endless.
Bailey, do you want to add to that?
Yes, of course. So in addition to academic scholarships, there's also diversity scholarships, which was a really good opportunity for me. My diversity scholarship actually helped me get my housing paid for, most of my tuition paid for. So if that's something you're interested in, I applied for the William C. Parker. They have awesome opportunities throughout campus. So definitely be applying.
I love that, and I second that. I'm also under that scholarship, and it has been amazing. Alyssa, do you have anything to say about financial aid and scholarships?
Yes, I think a common misconception a lot of students have coming in is that the aid that they get coming in is going to be the only aid they ever get throughout their time in college. But I didn't realize that like organizations that I get involved with on campus or different even jobs I've had on campus all have some sort of aid potentially, or they have scholarships you can apply for. So even maybe if you're first semester, you're really hoping to get more aid, I promise you there's going to be so many opportunities still when you get on campus to explore different aid opportunities.
I think it's really good you mentioned that because as a graduating senior, I think that to myself as well. There was so many more opportunities that I could have probably applied for more scholarships, but I just never thought about it because there is that misconception that like, oh, it's set, this is what you get, but it's not. And it can almost even relate to education abroad. Those are scholarships on top of the ones that sometimes you already have if you're doing an exchange program. So that just goes to show you. In terms of navigating though, it's a lot of research, like looking it up, applying for it, even if you don't know if you're going to make it, just apply for it. It's better to, submit that than not. And I would suggest navigating, we've already talked about different kinds of scholarships, but, look at different resources on our websites, like UK's major specific scholarships, things like that. We got a question about, are we all on campus currently? So I think this is a really good, I am not on campus. But if you want to start, let's go start with Curious. Where are you right now, Curious? Are you guys, where?
Yes, so I'm currently at the William T. Young Library on campus. That is central campus next to our cafeteria and some of our residence halls.
Alyssa?
Yeah, I'm at the top floor, but I'm in the student center. So you might be able to see some students walking up those stairs in that back corner. But this is where we have a Chick-fil-A, a Panda Express, a Subway. We have a movie theater. We have 3 ballrooms, and then we also have a dining hall, a Barnes and Noble, an Apple store. There's literally so much in here. It's really a cool building to come and study in. So love it here.
And Bailey, you could have fooled me, but are you on campus?
I am not. I'm actually joining from my apartment. Most of my classes, well, actually all of my classes are remote this semester, but virtually I'm at the Student Center. And in addition to all of the amazing amenities that the Student Center has, there's also a job office. So that's how I got my job. I went to the office, got more information, and I ended up working at Starbucks for a few semesters. So that was super nice. So a lot of opportunities within the Student Center.
I love that. And Serenity?
I'm actually also in William T. Young Library, but I'm in my favorite spot to study, which is the basement. There's like a little bit of chitter chatter going on, and that's how my brain focuses best.
I love that. And to be honest, the basement in Willie T was one of the first study spots I ever found. And I agree. I think the chitter chatter like helps a lot, especially when I'm the one doing it. We got a question about favorite hangout spots on campus. So let's see. Let's bring it back. Curious, what's your favorite study spot or hangout spot?
I remember freshman year. This is when I found my favorite hangout spot. I swore up and down that this I only knew about this. This was very exclusive to me. I only know about this, but behind the UK sign in front of the student center, the stone kind of UK, there's an upstairs where there's like a loft area, as well as on the back of the student center, there's like this walkway before the stairs were kind of built there. I would mostly hang out with friends there, study there, listen to music up there because no one would ever go up there. So that was my favorite one.
Awesome. And we'll keep in the same order. Alyssa? Oh, sorry. Did you hear me, Alyssa? Bailey?
Yeah, so there's a lot of benches outside all of the campus buildings. They have also like patio lawn chairs. So I really love to just hang out in front of Whitehall. It's right between Whitehall and Patterson. So I really love to hang out there, especially during the warmer times. It's like 70 degrees today. So it's super nice just to hang out and see all the people walk by.
Awesome. And Alyssa, do you want to try again this time? Sorry. Sorry, she's having some audio issues. That's okay. Serenity?
So maybe I'm partial to the library. I really love it down here, but also the bowl outside the library when it's warm is one of my favorite places to hang out. Me and my friends usually go and like lay out a blanket. We study outside. It's very, very pretty. And even when it's cold, it's a fun place to hang out. Lots of people like sled down the hill in the bowl, and they also like make snowmen. So it's a good time.
I wanted to also mention that I think it's really good to focus on like hangout spots versus study spots because I think they could be very different on campus. I noticed that a lot that and sometimes there's a lot of overlap. My friends' favorite study spots are my hangout spots, but I cannot study there for the life of me. But it's good to kind of distinguish between the two. For example, I know recently they added the Cornerstone, I think, which is like they have a bunch of like gaming and like it's like digital gaming, restaurants and stuff like that. And it really excites me, even though I'm about to graduate. But I just think to myself how that would be a hangout spot for me, but definitely not a study spot for me. Yeah. Alyssa, do you want to try one more time with your audio? I'm not sure if it's up, but.
You hear me?
Yeah, we got
Okay,
it.
yay. Okay, awesome. Were we talking about favorite study spots on campus?
Hangout spots.
Oh, favorite hangout spot. I would say the Student Center down at the Cat's Den. It's got a nice vibe where you can just watch like a TV show with your friends. I've had bachelor watch parties in there before of like the TV show. So it's really fun and they do a lot of cooler events in there too.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I hope that gave you guys a good variety. There's so many more too. We're just 5 students, so there are a ton of spots to hang out in. We got a question about work study programs. Have any of you guys ambassadors participated in a work study? If so, feel free to chime in.
I am actually a federal work study student, so I can try to answer this question. I do my federal work study for an advising office on campus. So it works just like a regular job. You just have an allotted amount of funds from the federal government, from your aid, and they just distribute it like paychecks. So whatever I work for the week, I will get federal work study. So it literally works the exact same way. It's just separate funds set aside directly for those students. Usually federal work study jobs are pretty nice too. They're pretty flexible. I do a lot of homework while I'm working my federal work study job. And really, as Caesar already reiterated, you really build those connections, even though they're faculty members, they just feel like a boss to you. So you get to build a different kind of relationship on campus.
Awesome. Okay. And then how about favorites, bringing it back to kind of like the hangout idea. What about favorite places to grab some food? Let's start with Serenity.
I love Subway. I affectionately call it Sublub, but it's like super convenient because I can pick out whatever I want to be on my sandwich and like eat it anywhere in the student center. I typically take mine to work with me. But yeah, it's most of the food places on campus are super good, but that's my favorite.
Gotcha. Bailey, do you want to jump in on that? I feel like we all got to go through and mention our favorite spots.
Yeah, so mine is Chick-fil-A. There's one in the student center, and they also added one by the library. So that's super convenient to grab. Chick-fil-A breakfast, chicken minis before classes are an absolute must. So definitely have to check that out.
Curious?
Gotta piggyback off of Bailey. Chick-fil-A is just kind of that spot. I'm a Chick-fil-A kind of guy. I will say that I am a little upset that they've limited their menu to where they just have maybe 3 lunch things, like my spicy deluxe, pepper jack cheese, no pickles. But we're gonna wait. Patience is being developed as we speak.
And Alyssa, how about you? What's your favorite spot to eat?
Okay, piggyback off of both of them, I would also say Chick-fil-A is nice. We are one campus that has 2 Chick-fil-A's. So how awesome is that for Chick-fil-A lovers? But also, I just kind of want to touch on the dining hall food. I feel like as a freshman, and even now, one of my favorite places to eat is definitely Champion's Kitchen, which is one of our dining hall locations. They have, guys, a nacho bar 24/7. So what gets better than that? And they always have really good fries, but then healthier options like a constant salad bar. They have really good mac and cheese. That was one thing I missed from home. So the dining hall locations are great places and really serve great food. And they're also really sustainable. They have a new food waste initiative program, which I just found out about in class recently, where they gather food scraps and they take that for composting and just like food waste in general. So really cool things happening in the dining hall.
I love that. We got a question kind of talking about meal plans as well. So what I can say about that is, as Alyssa mentioned, I immediately thought of Champion's Kitchen because my freshman year wasn't there, but then they added it and I absolutely loved the variety you have. You know what I mean? Especially when you're eating with friends. It's just a really good place because, not only are you still on campus, can get to class easily, it's like, you can all get whatever you want and everything works out. However, in terms of meal plans, Bailey, would you like to touch on this a little bit?
Yeah, so I can kind of observe both sides of the spectrum. I got the highest meal plan my freshman year, and my roommate actually got the lowest, and we both were able just to meet in the middle and meet new people. Sometimes I'd go in the morning to grab breakfast by myself, and then I would sit beside somebody new, and you can always make a new friend. So there's tables upon tables upon tables. You can go in, refill your water bottle really quick. It's available breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you're covered if you don't want to cook, if you don't want to use all of your flex at our different dining locations, the Champion's Kitchen or the 90 is the way to go.
Do you want to really quickly just address the difference between flex though?
Yeah, so we get meal swipes, and the meal swipes can be used at either of the dining halls on campus, so the 90 or Champion's Kitchen. And we also get a certain number of flex per meal plan. I think the highest meal plan gets about $500. And they're either gonna scan your student ID or you're gonna swipe it, and it's kind of like almost like a debit card, and you can use it at Chick-fil-A, Subway, Panda, any of the on-campus restaurants. So it's super nice. And you can also reload that at the end of the semester if you want more.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. If we don't, feel free to add like supplemental questions just so we could get into specifics. And we kind of just touched on a lot of campus eating here, but the great thing about Lexington too is there's so many good places to eat. I mean, whether it's like the street, limestone touching campus, or actually getting out and going to downtown Lexington and getting some food. There's a lot of good food out here, and I think that's probably a really important thing for me when it comes to like, especially somewhere where you're living, you want to be able to have access to variety and stuff like that. So there's a lot of options.
I want to mention too, just piggybacking off of what Caesar said, some of those off-campus locations, it's so crazy. Like the Canes right across the street down the road even offers that flex money. So you can load your card and you can use your dining hall swipe card to get food off campus in some locations. So that's pretty cool too.
That was definitely really good to mention. So we got a question about what's our favorite things to do, or things to do as a first year, like as a freshman. Serenity, what would you say about that, like coming into college?
My favorite things to do as a freshman was mainly to like explore campus. There is a lot here that I like didn't know about, and just like going out, seeing the different places also allowed me to like make new friends. I enjoyed just taking everything in, exploring Lexington, exploring the campus, exploring the connections I could make. That's probably one of my favorite things because they've just been lasting, and they've only aided in my experience at UK being better and better.
Yeah. Curious, do you want to touch on your freshman year activities?
My freshman year activities were, they were pretty basic, I will say. It was more for orientation. Again, I was just the shell-shocked freshman wanting to get involved, find a community to call my own. So a lot of it was something called First Year Forum, which was just a group of freshmen who were on a board and decided kind of the functionality and logistics of K-Week, which is just, again, an orientation for incoming freshmen or transfer students, people who are new to the institution. And it's kind of like your career fair. So you have tabling for different organizations, different colleges. You get a lot of information, T-shirts, bottles, you name it, it's given. Pop sockets. So that was what my freshman year consisted of, activity-wise.
I love it, Bailey.
Yeah, so I also really was overwhelmed in the absolute best way possible at the different involvement fairs. There's an involvement fair in the fall and the spring, and it's like all of the different organizations, platforms. You get to meet so many different things on UK to fall in love with. As Curious was saying, there's a lot of free stuff, so you get to find a club, make a friend, and then get a t-shirt at the end. So it's really nice.
And Alyssa, what kind of stuff did you get involved with freshman year?
I think I was most excited really to just get myself fully enriched in this tradition that University of Kentucky has. There's so much tradition, like going to a football game and being with all the other students, or going to Rupp Arena, or going to the women's gymnastic meets, or even sledding down Willie T's Bowl with your little tote that you got when you moved in. There's so many traditions that UK has. So I was just so excited to get to do as many as possible. And I still love doing the traditions. They're probably my favorite thing about UK.
Yeah, I definitely want to add to that. There's just so much you can do, like based on like things you're looking for, like specific things, like we mentioned, organizations, games, and then the random things you bump into when you're walking around campus. I know for freshman year, I felt that a lot in the dorm communities. Specifically, I lived in Woodland Glen 3, and the big courtyard between all the Woodland Glens, there was always someone, playing soccer or, playing catch or doing something. And especially, as you come in as a freshman, everybody's so welcoming. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's just trying to meet people. And I really love that you can just go up to someone and be like, hey, can I join in? And I love to skate a lot, like around campus. And that always got me into new opportunities, just walking around, like I mentioned, just seeing different people, just seeing different activities going on too, because, as Bailey said, it's a little overwhelming sometimes with all the events. I guess another word of advice related to that in terms of like getting involved and all these things is you have time. You can get involved your sophomore year, you can get involved your junior year, you can join new clubs your senior year. Like there's no limit to that for sure. Let's see, clubs and organization, which ones to join. So that definitely is going to depend on your interest. It's so broad. I guess I'll start. I definitely went more major specific. I went and actually ended up kind of, I want to say adopting this club because I ended up as the president and it was a great leadership opportunity for me. I got involved with the Society of International Studies. I got to form this cool little club for my major and, you know, we got to eat pizza and just talk about global things. And then, you know, there's just so much. Bailey, do you want to jump into that?
Yeah, of course. So my freshman and my sophomore year, I started with College Mentors for Kids. So we would become like a big sister or big brother to one of the local elementary school children, and we would get paired and we do a bunch of fun activities. And then the next year, I also joined something called a paper airplane club where we literally devoted all of the time to making paper airplanes. So it was super fun. You can find anything from major related to just finding a new hobby. So that's what I really enjoyed my time at UK.
I love that. Serenity, what kind of clubs were you in?
So again, I did like major specific. So like I'm in the Arabic club, but I also branched out into the service fraternity, Alpha Phi Omega. I was really looking for a way to like make friends, but also like get involved in the community around UK, and in the greater Lexington area. And that was just a really good opportunity. And I love my fellow brothers.
Curious?
So for me, I had like a little bit of best of both worlds when it comes to majors. So I was part of Psychology Student Association, things like that. And then outside of that, involved in something similar to what Bailey said. It was called Urban Impact, where we would go after school and we would help middle, high schoolers, even elementary schoolers with their homework and lead them in physical activities. And I've most recently joined my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Currently hold the position as president for that, and just involved, of course, student ambassadors. So I think I've had a little diversification with my involvement.
I love that. And Alyssa?
I just think UK is so cool because I get so excited about all the different clubs and I feel like I have to get involved in all of them. But I'm involved in Greek life as well. I'm also serving as my chapter president, like Curious. And then I am involved in the Student Philanthropy Board. So I'm really interested in nonprofit work and really getting more students engaged in that. So that's the mission of the board. And then I'm a student wellness ambassador. So we help with wellness initiatives around campus. And also serving as an ambassador for the College of Arts and Sciences.
So I shared a link in the YouTube chat. There's a thing called BB Involved, and that's probably the best way to kind of explore all the different clubs and organizations because Campus Ruckus is exactly what it sounds like. It's like walk around and meet everybody and find organizations. However, if you're looking for a more like concrete, hey, what was that club that I saw? That offers like a huge list of all of our clubs and organizations here, and it gives you an opportunity to explore them. Since no one mentioned it too, SAB, Student Activities Board, is a huge thing to get involved. They're always hosting different events for all the college students, so that's definitely something to look for. But that link and BB Involved is going to be your spot to kind of find all those different organizations and kind of just look for your interests, basically, specific. Kind of waiting for some questions, but maybe I feel like, what about advice? Maybe what advice would you have? You know, I see we have some freshmen in the chat. Let's see, Bailey, do you want to start with that? What kind of advice would you have for incoming freshmen?
Yes, so I was actually the only one in my friend group to come to UK. So absolutely do not be afraid to branch out. There's so many different resources just in K Week to find a lifelong friend. Our living learning programs, you can find a friend and you can live on the same floor. It's absolutely amazing. Just do not be afraid to try new things. That's one of the things that I wish I would have known a little bit more. I felt like I would have been more comfortable and adjusted a little bit more because UK provided all the resources. It's just a matter of fact of whether you accept them or not. So definitely take those resources and run with them.
I love that. And I'm so sorry, Kennedy, I missed your question. What are professors like? Any recommendations on who to take for classes? Okay, I think that's a really good question because we're all from different departments, but it'll be nice to highlight certain professors. Serenity, do you want to jump into that?
Yeah, so I, of course, I'm partial to the linguistics department because I love them all so much, but they are like super interactive. They want you to succeed, but also like they're just as kooky and fun as we are. Like my syntax professor will come in and wear a hat and just be like, okay, everybody, go get a hat from your like room or something, and that's what we're gonna do on Zoom today. So everyone's gonna wear a hat and we're gonna study syntax. Or like the other day he came in with a sock puppet on his hand and was like, syntax is the best, and then just proceeded to lecture us. So they really want to get your attention and like really want you to learn, but also they can be fun.
Yeah. Curious, what are your teachers like?
My teachers, I love my teachers very much. Created really good bonds with them. I make it an effort, and I think this could go into the question that we posed before. I'm answering this question just about what I would recommend to incoming freshmen is to make connections with your professors. So what I do, I purposefully, whenever we were in person, sit within the first 2 rows of my classroom. And I do that because one, your professors are more likely to remember your face because they see it up close and personal when they're lecturing. As well, I would offer that you maybe just introduce yourself or say like, hey, I'd love to be in contact with you about the success of your class and how I could get into an A. So I have very close bonds with the psychology professors.
I love that. And that's definitely super important because it just helps you. It opens more opportunities to you for sure. Alyssa, what are your professors like? Oh, did you have something else to say? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna add I think you'll really learn this, but Rate My Professor is gonna be your best friend when it comes to registration for classes. That's just gonna tell you nothing negative, but just for your learning style, if they are visual people, if they create PowerPoints, if they upload them, if they're very text-based when it comes to their exams, those are very important.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that. It's so true to look into your professors and see which ones match your teaching style, because that could dictate, especially if there's similar classes, two or like one class being taught by 2 professors, for example. Alyssa, how are your professors like?
They are incredible. And the cool thing is, even though I do have some courses that are virtual right now, they still learn my name, they learn about me, they'll read my discussion posts and commit it to memory. So they really, really, really care. And they have fun, like office hour themes. So I think that they really go and do a mile more than anything that they are expected to. And that's what makes UK so special. And then to wrap up that advice question, if I had to give advice to anyone coming to college, I would say take advantage of every opportunity you get, and don't compare. There's no reason that you should be comparing yourself while you're in college, like, oh, that person got to do this thing. Embrace what you're doing and really just go for it. Like, your path is going to be so special, and that's what's going to make your whole college experience so remarkable.
I love that too. And I think, not comparing yourself to others helps you hone in on your actual interests and what you want to do. And I think, in college, you're going to realize that this is your opportunity to work on yourself, even while you're amongst your friends and stuff, I love that. Some of my friends were studying completely different things, and it made it a lot easier when it came to comparisons, because I'm like, I cannot compare my studies to theirs. It's so different. So we got a question about biking or skateboarding, and I definitely want to add on to that just because I'm a big skateboarder. Both are definitely accessible on campus. They're great ways to get around. I know for me, my skateboard was so useful trying to like get from one side of the campus to the other. Not because like I had to rush, but usually I was always late sometimes. But it depends on what you're, looking for. What I really liked about my skateboard too was that it was very like easy to just throw it under my desk when I'm in class versus a bike where, you do want to get a lock. And we have a lot of bike racks. That's a good thing too. But I just personally went skateboard because easier. I could just run right into class, tuck it under my my desk. We got a question about note taking, and that's interesting. The question is, what's the best method for taking notes in class? I think within every major, we probably take notes very differently. But Bailey, do you want to talk about what works best for you or what you've noticed?
So as an English major, I've kind of had the luxury of having the presentations posted before class. So if that's the case for you, I'd recommend going through that first, kind of taking some supplementary notes, just getting the basics. And that really helps you listen during class. Because I feel like a lot of professors in UK, most of what the content from their exam comes from their lectures. So make sure that you're not only just scribing down the PowerPoint slides, but also make sure you're taking notes of things that they repeat often, because they do that a lot. They don't discreetly tell you that this is going to be on the exam, but they'll repeat it like 3 or 4 times. So
that's a very good point. Serenity?
For me, I love taking notes. I kind of find it super soothing. But I recommend like making it fun for yourself. Get some colorful pens, get a notebook that you really like, or incoming freshmen get iPads. So it's super fun to learn like what kind of note-taking apps that you can get, and practicing writing with your Apple Pencil. And it can be super helpful because you can like save trees. But yeah, I found that that's super helpful and like rewarding myself along the way too.
Curious?
So for me, being in psychology, there's a lot of theory, so it's very note heavy. One thing that I would recommend is learning shorthand. So saying without W/O, because I mean it's just at a certain speed, and of course, at least my professors love that space button to go to the next slide. But I will also just say from like a personal kind of standpoint, I've had professors who do not post lectures, do not post PowerPoints, do not like allow you to go back in class and say, can you go back? I personally have gotten really creative, and I've started to say like, hey, may I voice record this lecture so then I can go back and listen to it later and then take supplementary notes like Bailey said. So you just kind of have to get creative with maybe not just physically taking notes at that certain point, but saying, okay, what could help me in the future?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you'll learn that different note taking maybe correlates differently to different professors' teaching styles, like Kiris was mentioning. How about you, Alyssa? What are some good note taking skills you've learned? Might be the audio. I'll jump in. It's okay. I think, we all mentioned like just different styles. I think it's important to just understand, kind of similar to, we mentioned about college in general, is everybody does things differently. So you really have to kind of hone in on what works for you. I know that I struggle with that a lot, listening to other people's note-taking skills. I kept adopting them and trying them, and they would never work for me. And then that's when I realized I'm like, I guess similar to how Kiris mentioned, you have to get creative with it and just kind of see what works best for you. And it's a lot of trial and error, for sure.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. I think the best thing that helped me in note taking was the iPads. Those are so awesome, and it's so cool that UK provides those, but you can literally download your PowerPoint and write right on there. So you have the notes from the professor and the notes that you take, and then you can even search in some apps and it'll pull up your handwriting as the notes. So I think that was the best resource I had.
That's awesome. And that actually mentioned one last thing I want to mention about notes is I realized that freshman year too, I don't like writing. I like typing because I'm a lot quicker. And, even in some classes, a little bit embarrassing being the only one with my computer right there and everybody else taking more hand notes because sometimes they work better. I personally write way faster with typing, and it helped me a lot with my note taking. And that's something that I'm glad that I realized early on because it's helped me a ton. And I apologize for the pauses. Gotta like look around and find the questions.
You're doing great, Caesar.
Do we got any last couple questions from everybody? This has been really good though. You guys have been asking all the right questions for sure. Perfect. We just got a question about living learning programs. Were you all in a living learning program? I was not, but they are amazing opportunities, and I wish I could have taken advantage of it. Did any of you guys live in living learning programs?
So I personally, my freshman year, started out in the Creative Arts LLP in Holmes Hall, partly because I had a past of being a part of a performing arts school. I'm in Louisville, DuPont Manual, and dance and singing has always been a passion of mine. I didn't really want to continue with it. It's just more of a hobby now. But coming into UK, having people who have the same appreciation for creativity, that was a great one. And then also being an RA within the honors quad. So Lewis, Johnson, Donovan, and Hagen Hall. I also kind of reside over them.
And then Serenity, I think you were in one as well, right?
Yeah, so I was a part of the honors living learning program, which, side note, you don't have to be in the honors college to be a part of. I was, but I knew plenty of people in the honors LLP who were not. They were just interested in living there and living amongst those people. And honestly, it was super nice, super cool. It helped me make connections, and also like those people were in my classes. They got to know me. They became my friends, and we like shared in the same like struggles and successes. So I really recommend them. They're good opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. I think they really are great opportunities to kind of just find certain groups of people that you want to associate with yourself as you go in. And that doesn't always limit you. I'm sure, Curious and Serenity, that you didn't just completely stay stuck there. You probably met people all around as we all did. So that's really good too. And then, me, even though I wish I could have taken advantage of that, I'm really glad that I still made friends in my own dorms. And I think I ended up in the engineering LLP, which is really funny because I appreciate engineering, but not very good at it. But I have a ton of engineering friends now. So funny how that works. Okay, we got one about time management, and I think that one's so important when it comes to college and like kind of doing what what you're kind of asked to do. I mean, whether it's like assignments or long essays. Bailey, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, so I feel like no matter how well you balance your time, you're still going to have that stress. And when that comes to that point, I'd recommend going to the counseling center. They have so many amazing resources. They had massage chairs. You can come in and color. They had really comfy couches. So know yourself. I knew I got stressed really easily, so I couldn't just sit down for 3 hours and study for, say, a paper that was due. So I would take 20-minute increments. I would study for 20 minutes, take a break, check my phone, and then study for maybe 20 more minutes. So try to break it up into chunks, and that might make it seem less overwhelming.
Yeah. What about you, Alyssa?
I think being so involved, you kind of learn just over time what works for you and what doesn't. Like, oh, if I have that meeting at 7, I want to do a little bit before and a little bit after. So I don't know if I have any tangible tips, but kind of just like as you get here, you'll kind of know and get to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Similar to the whole note-taking thing, I think it really just depends on what works for you and knowing yourself. I too, kind of on Bailey's side, tend to like 3-hour chunks of just sitting just does not work for me. So I've learned to kind of, walk away, come back, refreshed a little bit, go outside, and then come back to it. Let's see. Okay, we got a question about how do I commit to UK? Well, I hope in the beginning, our why we picked UK could help on that. There's just so many different reasons why one could commit to UK, but I think it'll be a little bit hard to say exactly why you should commit to UK. But I think it's definitely something considering, taking into account all those things, how comfortable you would feel here, like how we mentioned the campus is just like really welcoming. It feels like home, things like that. Academics, if you're looking for interactive professors and of a good variety, we are a larger school. Some of your classes will be bigger and stuff like that. The tech here, there's so many reasons to commit. Let's see. And we got one about playing sports for UK. Would you recommend playing sports? I mean, definitely, if you're interested in it, go for it. Did any of you guys do any sports here at UK? Nope. I mean, I didn't either, but a lot of my friends were involved, like whether they were like actually going for, I don't know, there's just a lot of different opportunities. I think what a lot of my friends did was intramurals because they're a little bit less, they're more flexible. So you can kind of go to them whenever you want. You can join an intramural team, but it's not as like committing as like actually going and playing like for, you know, like the school's team. But I think a lot of those people know early on when they're coming in that they want to go into that as well. But there's a lot of opportunities, like I mentioned. Curious?
Maybe not speaking from personal testimony, but I do have fraternity brothers who run track on the track team. I would say what I've heard from them is that it is a time commitment. And if you know that you can handle that, that goes back to time management. If you know that you can keep up grades, which is why you're here, and you can carve out time for yourself and manage that, more than welcome. That's just another sense of community that you can gain here.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that and how you connected it to time management because that's very true. But that's a good thing too. There's also just opportunities to do things like, for example, our gyms too, like the Johnson Center and Alumni Gym. I mean, there's like a rock climbing wall in the JC, and just there's like basketball courts. So like you don't really, if you want to get involved and play a sport, but you don't have the time, you know, there is opportunities to kind of do that. So that's awesome. And, you know, as I mentioned too, like around outside in the fields, you'll see just people kicking a ball or playing catch and stuff like that. We got any other questions? I'm just going to give it a second just in case. Okay. So we just got a question. Okay, when is the deadline for fall classes registration? I believe, hold on. Could you elaborate, Nick? Do you mean like to apply for UK or specific for classes? I guess I'll just kind of mention it in general. So I believe our applications did stop, but they do roll over until July. So I would just say, yeah, if you're waiting to apply, go for it. If you're already admitted, definitely start to apply for your orientation. That's would kind of be the next step. That's where it would help you. That's where you get started, sorry, for your fall classes. So definitely just look out for that orientation and sign up to get an appointment for that. And that was actually a really good question to wrap it all up. But yeah, if you're waiting to apply, just go for it. Apply now. I know Kennedy mentioned too is looking for like a reason to commit. There's still so much more that one could know. Feel free to reach out through us through like our actual arts and science department. That way you can get in contact with us if you have any specific like student life questions and stuff like that. But our website also has just like a ton of information related to whatever you have questions about. Let's see, be sure to also, if you haven't been on campus, I think that's a really good way to end up committing to UK when you finally get to come here and experience, like kind of see the campus for yourself. I think that helps a lot. And we have a bunch of different kinds of campus tours. So it just depends on what fits you and what you have time for. Last but not least, don't forget to follow our social media pages. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And tomorrow, tune in. We'll be having a question Q&A just like this, but with our math and natural sciences. And just thank you everybody for participating. We appreciate all the questions. We hope that we could be of use for you all. Yeah. Any last things you guys want to say between the ambassadors? Awesome. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys. Well, I think that